Welcome to the fourth installment of the weekly series on oneness in the Parsha. This week we read the story of Avraham, and the Torah tells us that he planted a tree, Vayeira. There's different opinions in the Talmud. One opinion was an orchard from which he could produce fruit to give his guests. As we know, he's very hospitable. And another opinion is that it was actually like a bed and breakfast. It was a hospitality suite where he had people stay over and he was able to engage with them in conversation and fulfill his mission of spreading the oneness consciousness in the world. But the end of the verse is very telling, and there's a one-letter difference that makes all the difference. The Torah says, Vayikra Shom b'shem Hashem kel olam. He called there, this was in Be'er-Sheva, in the name of the Eternal, the Master of the universe. And this is where the Talmud gets it from, where we learn that not only did he himself believe in one God, in one Creator, but he made it his mission to spread oneness consciousness in the world. It's from this word Vayikra, which can also be read as Vayakri, because the Torah doesn't have any vowels. So the same word can be read as he called, or he caused others to call, which is the source in the Torah for Abraham's mission of spreading oneness consciousness in the world. People think that Abraham, he basically taught this idea that there's one creator that brought all of existence into being. But it doesn't, it begins at that. He started to understand this as a child. But as he got older, his understanding deepened and broadened and was much more advanced and complex. In fact, the Rambam, Maimonides, tells us that he wrote books to spread this idea. Now, to say that there's one creator doesn't take a book. So obviously there's complexity and there's depth to this idea of oneness. One of the books that's attributed to Abraham is the book called Sefer Yetzirah, the book of formation, a book of Kabbalistic mystical teachings. And this is attributed to Avraham. If you open up the page, it says the author of the book is Abraham, our forefather. So there was a lot to write about. And we find in Kabbalah, and it's elaborated in Hasidus, especially in Hasidus Chabad, a lot of discussion on this idea of oneness. Not just that there's one source or power that creates everything, but in fact that there's only one true existence. And this is the subtlety, the nuance in the word Kel Olam. Not Kel Ha'olam, not that God is the master of the universe, but it will almost be as though you read it Master Universe, with no separation. Because Master of the universe implies that there are two things. There is the Creator, and there's the creation. In the first discourse of the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, when he first accepted upon himself the leadership of this generation, he taught this idea that we're on a mission to teach the world not just that there's one creator, that alone, that's the starting point, but we're not supposed to end there. We're supposed to go further and bring into our own consciousness and spread around the world as well, to all of humanity, the idea of oneness, that in truth all of existence is one with Hashem. And so we hear people saying things like, the universe, put it out to the universe and the universe will respond, or nature has its way. If you think about it, those expressions talking about the universe or nature are actually an idea of separation, where we're talking about the world having its own, entity, identity, being, energy. Really, it's a lifetime of work to integrate this idea into our experience, which we don't always feel that way. But if we learn Chassidus, we can be saturated with the notion that in truth, really, oneness consciousness is not just that there's one creator of the world, but that all of existence is really one with Hashem, and the creator is all that truly exists. And that's what Abraham was really, the depth of his teaching, that he was teaching us in this week's Parsha. Interestingly also is that Rambam, Maimonides, starts his book, Mishnah Torah, the first encyclopedia of Jewish law, with the words B'Shem Hashem Kel Olam, in the name of the Lord, the Master of the universe. This very verse that we talk about in this week's Parsha. And it's also fascinating that the Rebbe, who was a big proponent of studying Rambam, started off his first discourse. No, he didn't start it off, but in his first discourse, Basi Lagani, where he talks about the divine presence coming into the garden in this world, he mentions this idea of Abraham's mission of spreading oneness consciousness in the world, and that truly, ultimately, all is one. Have a great Shabbos, and we'll see you next week.